I hope you stayed warm this weekend, but we have a lot of them who register and just send you text messages that because of the cold they were not going to be here, and we understand it. But the good thing is that we're recording our things, and whoever asks for it, we can just send it to them, and they don't miss it because a lot of good information today. So after welcoming you into this chilly early morning, I am Betsy Bautista, and I am always in the back, but this time I have the privilege to be here in the front because my partner Leanne is going to be one of the panelists today in all of her expertise today. And just reminding you, everything you have in your seats, it's information for the next seminar in January. Then we have survey that it always helps us to know what you're interested on, what went wrong, what went right, would you like to hear. Just put it on in this. It's really valuable for us to know when we start preparing for the next series for next year's. We are going to listen to you. We're going to take that into consideration. Again, the bathrooms are in the back. Oh, now I know how you always forget to do this. This is us and our business of Downsizing Made Easy. We help transitioning families from the home they are, the place they are, to the next one, and we are a concierge service that we help them navigate every single part of what moving entails for them, not just the buying and the selling of the home. Welcome to our educational partners. Welcome, Sarah, coming in. Please visit them at the end. They're always willing to answer questions. They have very good information in their tables for you. If you have any other questions, you always can linger at the end and ask them some questions. Please visit them. They just take their time, their valuable time, to be here with us, to answer and to know what they can help you with in all of this world of senior living. And restrooms and materials that you have in there. Remember, outside of the door to the right at the end, then there's the restroom. We have some questions already prepared for our panelists, but if you have any questions, feel free. And at the end, it would be the best, but we know sometimes, whatever we're talking, there's like a pressing question, so we'd like to hear from you. We're gonna wrap up at 11:30 or before, depends on how the conversation goes, so you can have some time with our educational partners and to have any more questions that you have for us. And to remind you that we're here to educate, to equip and empower, not to sell, and that's always our agenda. We just want to inform you. We thought, Leanne and I think education is key, and we never stop learning, so we should never stop educating people of what we know. And I welcome our panelists today. And we have wonderful Dave Holder coming in, and Leanne, and then we have Jonah too. Dave Holder, it's with assisted living.
Should we send that order?
Oh. You are messing the system.
Okay. We did it by accident.
It's fine.
I'm in the middle.
All right.
Now y'all.
There we go.
Y'all have to change it.
You can match it now,
Yeah.
who they are. So welcome you, and introduce yourself and what your expertise in today's subject.
So my name's Dave Holder. I'm the owner of Assisted Living Locators. I'm your senior living resource. So I'm kind of like Betsy and Leanne. So I'm kind of like a realtor for senior living. I'm there to help you understand what these communities have to offer, what it costs, so you can make an educated and informed decision.
Thank you.
And I'm Jonna with Harmony Senior Relocation Services. After Dave helps clients find the place that they want to move to, I help people get downsized and moved and set up in their new place.
And my name is Leanne Balta, and I have been in real estate since 2013. And so I sit down with families and decide what does that next move look like?
Well, thank you. Welcome all. So I think today's subject came about with the question, like if you could take a magic wand, let's say, and if you think of a process of every move that you made and every plan that you made, if you had a magic wand, which one thing would you choose to just be done magically for you? Anybody has any comment? Well, we actually think through it and we have heard, our clients and our friends and all of their experience and pains that they go through. And I think it's important to know what can we do to make that process, especially our last move into the downsizing, into the community that we think we want, to that next step at that stage of our life, or to help our parents to do that last step. What is out there that is gonna help us make it easier? So that's why we have our panelists today. And I would like to ask Jonna first. What do late life movers misunderstand most about the actually timeline of preparing a home for sale and then relocate?
It may not be necessarily a misunderstanding, but maybe it just hasn't occurred. Previously, when we've all moved in our earlier life, it's been fairly straightforward because you might do a few runs to Goodwill and get rid of some clothes you haven't been wearing, but for the most part, you're loading it all up, you're moving it to the new place. You either have a house of the same size or a larger size, and you're just bringing it all in. You've got good storage, you've got a nice garage, your bedroom's got, bigger and better. I think when people are downsizing, sometimes just not realizing how much you've accumulated over the years, but also that, particularly if you're moving into a retirement community, that storage and excess is just something that's not available, which is what we've all had in the past when we've moved, and really kind of thinking through what are the core things that I need to keep, what are the things that I love that I want to keep, and really kind of dealing with that, that's probably 20% of what we own are the things that we love and the things that we need. But now what do I do with all of this 80%? And I think sometimes we underestimate how much of that 80% there is.
I feel every time I have to clean my garage, I think, where did all this stuff come from?
Yeah.
I think 100% of the garage stuff, it's just, I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
And I'm not even thinking of moving, I'm just cleaning it up. So, just realizing what to do, what we have, it should be something we need to start thinking way ahead of the move and the decisions and all of that. So in Leanne, in the real estate perspective, not only what we're gonna move, but where are we gonna move? How are we gonna move? What's one step that a homeowner can take with a lot of time ahead, months time ahead, to get ready? Let's say they own a house. How do they get ready to list it after considering all of the stuff that they have to really move forward?
I would even say years before,
Huh.
just to sit down and have a conversation about what does the housing market look like? What do you think my home is worth? What can I do to get ready? What do I not need to worry about? I have a client right now that was literally, because there's a couple of scrapes on the floor, was going to have the floors redone.
Oh.
And John's kind of our fixer guy, so no offense to John, but I was like, we could probably touch this up a little bit and not necessarily, do some other things instead. So just really having a conversation.
So you think talking with a professional before making those big decisions of assuming what the buyer is gonna need, what I need to get done to get my house ready, and start investing sometimes money they don't need to invest at the moment.
Yeah. or it's like different. Things are changing,
Yeah.
and when you're talking to someone who does this a lot, any of us who specialize in something, things change, trends change, and so just having those conversations and knowing that if we're talking years in advance, we're gonna have more conversations closer to the time of the move, but just having a trusted person on, someone they trust on their side, I think is the first step.
And not necessarily saying, I'm gonna start talking with my professional mover, that means that I have to commit right now, or talking with my agent, I have to commit right now, I'm not gonna waste their time. Sometimes just having those conversations.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, like I don't wanna waste your time. I hear that an awful lot, and really it's not a waste of time, it's what we do, it's just, I'm meeting with a couple this evening that wants to add a room on. So they're not selling their house, but they want me to come over just to say, what's my home worth? What do you think I might get out of it? And I can find out what their long-term plans are, and yeah, just a conversation.
Because those early conversations then might save them time, pain,
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
which is important
Yeah.
to all of us.
Yeah, and everybody has an opinion, so.
Yes. So small conversations is a big move to start when we're planning.
Yeah.
Today, once someone knows or think they know where to move, how far in advance should they start looking or exploring for the kind of housing that there is available for them?
Yeah, I think just to dovetail what everybody said, it's all about proactivity, and if you know that, hey, at some point we're gonna leave our house, but we don't know what that looks like, you should reach out to somebody like me that can help give the lay of the land. Cause a move like that is gonna be so emotional, from just like the physical of the downsizing, but then understanding what these senior living communities have to offer. Are you gonna move into independent, or is it assisted living? Do you want an apartment or a garden home? How do you financially understand that? What does all of this mean? It's very, very overwhelming. So the sooner you can start and kind of think about those things and understand what the lay of the land is when you're ready to go, you'll be way ahead of it, as opposed to moving when there's a crisis. Because probably when you are proactive, or I should say probably, when you are proactive, you've got a lot more choices. You can pivot anywhere that you need to, financially, anything like that, but when something happens and you've got to move, now you're just dealing with availability, and your world might become very, very narrow.
Because every single choice brings different advantages, perks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lifestyle that might mean.
Yeah.
So again, start a conversation, not feeling that you are taking their time or you're making a commitment that maybe you're not ready for. We keep hearing this from all of our partners. Would they rather, yes. Okay, they rather have that time with you ahead, so you make the right decisions instead of going in fixing mode.
Yeah, and
probably.
I just wanna reiterate, we're not here to tell them what a right decision
Right.
is. We really are, we spend a lot of time listening. I know Jonna as well. We spend, even though she's there to do a certain something, and we need her expertise, but she's also there to listen. We're all there to listen to what's important to the person.
Yeah.
What is important to them, and then how to achieve that goal. That's what we're trying to work on, yeah.
For sure.
I've come to a realization. One, I attend these to learn possibilities, and they're great. But I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm healthy, my wife's health is gradually going down, and I'm going, what's the trigger where I gotta start really thinking about this? I mean, really think about it. The decisions of assisted living, or just downsize on a home or whatever. The health issues. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, everything that you all are putting out is great. I'm going, when do turn the
Oh,
switch,
yeah.
and which switch am I gonna turn?
Well, I think one, the fact that you're here before you need to flip the switch is great.
Absolutely.
Because you do know all of these possibilities, you know of all the resources that are available. And I think you will know the time, when it's time to flip the switch, because you've been hearing about these possibilities that kind of lets you know, I don't have to stay in this current situation, I can stay here whenever. Just as a personal example, my father-in-law, about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years now, we thought we were gonna be in crisis mode, and we met with Dave. He gave us a tour, and then, my father-in-law ended up on the uptick, and, he's lived in his house for about another 2 years, actually. But just recently, he started a downtick again. And so my husband was asking, well, I think I think in the next 3 months, it probably really is the time. But what's nice is, we already have the 4 communities that Dave had shown us a year and a half ago. My husband has all those questions already answered. So when we do need to flip the switch, what we're seeing, the time is coming, we've got a lot of questions already answered. We kind of already know the community where will want to move. So I think gathering all this information is gonna help you know when to kind of flip the switch, and it'll give you the confidence to say it's now or it's not quite now.
I agree with that. My wife, love her dearly, 57 years. She doesn't want anything to do with this. Yeah, honey,
Yeah,
your hearing's going,
yeah,
and blah, 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 blah. One, you know, if I broach that subject, it's like, that, I guess that's my hard part.
yeah, yeah.
And I deal with that all the time with, you know, if it wasn't for, honestly, the daughters or the daughters-in-law, or my phone would never ring, right? Cause they're the ones that are gonna see that and they wanna be proactive. So I would say you could still do your research, right?
Oh, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and so, like, I would think about, you know, hey, if we stayed home, what would we need to do to stay here as long as we can? Is it hiring somebody like Chris and have Homestead come out and take care of that? What does that look like from a management, from a cost perspective? Okay, if we were to downsize, what does that look like? Or if we were to look at senior living, what does that look like? And you can have all of that information, just like Jonna said, say, oh, yeah, if we stay home, I'm gonna have to deal with this. I don't know that I wanna deal with that. So maybe looking at a community, or yeah, you know what, the goal is to stay home, but guess what, that's gonna be X number of dollars per hour with a minimum, and you're, you know, gonna be managing that and doing that. Like, kind of, what type of life do you want, right? Is it about staying in the home and doing that, or is it about safety, and is it about being proactive? And then kind of get your information together, and then talk with us. Like, you know, we have to have these conversations all the time with people. Sometimes it's reaching a loved one or a parent on an emotional level. Dad, we're so worried, like, we're just overwhelmed. We can't deal with, like, running around getting your prescription and following up with the doctors. And sometimes parents will say, oh, I never even thought about that. Oh my God, that's terrible. Sometimes it's the financial piece that drives it. Hey, if we stay here, it's gonna cost us this much, but if we downsize, it's really not that much more, or it's more feasible. I know your husband did that too, and it was like, look, and so sometimes that's a switch, but to allow yourself time to think about that where can I open that door, or where can I plant those seeds that might make it a little bit more intriguing to your wife, but getting that knowledge firsthand, and then really thinking about that, calling Chris, calling me, talking to Jonna about, okay, what does this look like? And then talk to Alex financially. Hey, could we make this stretch? What are the levers I can pull? Then you can kind of figure out what the next steps would be, wherever that is.
And your daughter is involved, is it, in the planning?
Yes.
Okay. So,
She's the, I forget the term, but she's the big wheel coming to the trust,
yeah.
and the executor of the estate. So she's aware of those things, but it's
favorite things is just sitting down with the family and talking about the plan. And, so glad you're here, Chris, because sometimes how can we age in place as long as possible? That is a plan, and how do we get ready for that? And what are the tools and adjustments that we need to make to be able to make that happen? But then to go ahead and talk through that next step so that everybody knows what's happening. And, so I respect that your wife just, isn't ready to have those conversations, but it's also a matter of helping her understand that if she's not making those choices, somebody's making those choices for her.
Yeah.
If she's okay with that, great. Go ahead and make your plan and then inform her. That just came to mind.
Speaking from experience, you know, my sisters and I were, my parents were much like your wife, and it took us to kind of take the wheel. But I think looking back on it, where we went wrong, we made choices for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a rough road for many years where we should have provided the choice, which is exactly why you're here. But I think your children need to be the ones speaking with your parents to kind of support you, if that's a possibility.
Yeah, without the conversations, I don't mean to keep interrupting, but without the conversations, you really don't know where the pain point is. And so, it could be financial. It's like, I don't necessarily have the means to have someone come in and take care of me for 2 years before I'm ready to do something. And then you have, Rock talks to families a lot about how to use our homes as a means of literally staying in place longer. So until you have a conversation, it's hard to know where the pain point is.
Right.
Just curious, staying at home versus moving to assisted living, wouldn't staying at home be less expensive even with daycare people?
That really depends.
Yeah.
Because there's home maintenance, there are the expenses of having people come in and care for you. So it really just takes some figuring out. So I would say it depends, which is a right or wrong
And it
answer.
depends on how much assisted living someone might need. My father-in-law for a while didn't need any, and we've just recently brought someone in to help them stay there longer, to give them a little more interaction during the week. But we're also seeing that as we need somebody to come in maybe more and more, that starts to get a little more expensive. We can't do he can't afford 24-hour care.
Right.
And so it just kind of evolves, you kind of make the best decisions for the time.
And one of the things we've learned in all of our seminars before is that sometimes we just think money-wise, it might be cheaper to stay home if the options are not that expensive, but then it's the quality of life and how much that person is staying in home, is not socializing, it's in her own home and she's comfortable, but she's not going out, or he's not going out, he's not having people interaction, his activities are let low. And we're really, their health deteriorates faster when they have less, and we learned this, that it's very important to take in consideration how much active that person is staying and how much contact with the world is staying, just staying home.
Nutritionally, I was
Exactly.
floored
Like
by
she's very movable and she can go out.
she's not eating well.
She's not eating well because it's so easy, she doesn't want to cook, a meal just for herself, and then you choose just a yogurt or something like that at the end. And that's not a quality of life that she could sustain. So we go and drop off and visit as much as we can. So she has to go. Or invite her in our house to eat all the greens that I know she's not eating, or buy her own. But yeah. So moving along with our subject, simplifying just the moving. We are deciding to move. I want to ask Jonna, what do you think are the most forgotten or hidden tasks that families ignore that complicates a little bit more than ease the whole movement?
Well, a couple little things. First, this kind of goes back to what I had said earlier. I think the biggest thing is they just don't realize how much stuff is in the closets
Yes.
and in the basement and in the garage.
Back of the kitchen.
In the back of the, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that closet that's under the stairs, like, oh, there's all kinds, and you just start pulling it out and pulling it out. I had one son say, I feel like elves come in here at night after I leave and they put more stuff in the closet, you know? So one is just really not realizing how much stuff is in the home, how much, and I don't mean cluttered homes, I just mean we have nice big houses with lots of big closets. It's kind of the, kind of same side of a different coin, I guess you'd say. It's great to have a lot of storage, but when you're trying to downsize, it really becomes a problem. Just other little things, just when people are moving and downsizing, is a lot of times people forget about like the paint cans and the chemical things that you can't just put that stuff in the trash. That stuff needs to be kind of thought about. And usually that's the stuff kind of, it's like, oh yeah, what do we do with that big pile of stuff in the garage? Like it's move day and there's all these paint cans and stuff that we need to get rid of. Another little thing is your freezer. I've had some ladies who have like, a chest freezer full of food and it's move day and they've probably got $300 worth of good meat and vegetables in these freezers, and it's like, well, what are we gonna do with this? So if you're thinking about moving, start eating out of your freezer, start using up all that extra toilet paper and, all your Walmart supply of stuff. Just start using all that stuff, because when it comes down to that last little scurrying of the move, it's like there's all this stuff. It's like, oh yeah, what do we do with all this?
How about documents? We don't know how many documents we have, and do we really need to move them when we downsize?
Right, yeah, offices and financial papers are very tedious to go through and to figure out. So that is something else to kind of start in advance, absolutely.
And Dave, what emotional barriers show up most often during the transition? Because then we have the stuff barrier and the task barrier. What emotional barriers, like we were talking in the transition when we start the actual transition?
I think that especially when the kid's talking with the parents, I think they view this move as, if I make this move, then I can see the end of the runway, so to speak, right? My life is over. That's so difficult, and I understand that completely. It's hard to say, oh, now I need help, or now I want to do that. And I think that it's also just kind of changing your mindset. All of these communities, whether you're an independent or assisted living, are there so you can stay independent longer.
Yeah.
They're not there to take things away from you. It's there to make it more convenient. Doctors on site, PT on site, help if you need it, if there's a fall. That's why they're there, so you can stay independent longer. That's what, to kind of get your head around, that's what it's there for. It's not to take anything away from you. People always say, I lose my independence when I move. You can come and go as you want. You can have visitors. You can leave for the weekend. You can leave for a week if you want. There's no restrictions as far as that. There's not independence to lose, truly, other than your square footage of your house. But in most cases, you're only living in probably 400 square feet when you really break it down. So I think it's just understanding that's the point of it, and I tell people this story, I've had the business 7.5 years. I felt very successful this year because I paid somebody to mulch my yard.
Oh.
Right, right, I could do it. It would have taken me all day Saturday. I would have been sore on Sunday, but I could have done it. But I also had somebody else do it, and I got to fart around all weekend and do something else. And I walked home and my yard was all mulched. That's kind of like senior living. Okay, but why not have that maintenance off your plate? Or why not have somebody come in and remind you, here's your pills, you're good to go. You don't have to worry about reordering them and running to Walgreens and did I take them and organizing. Somebody else can do that for you, so you can be independent and go do whatever you want to do. So I think that's the biggest.
That's good.
Yeah.
And how then, in this emotional side, families can help support what would you recommend, like the daughters-in-law that are actually the ones that are spending the time going, doing grocery shopping and making sure that at least that they have not just Chef Boyardee in their, pantry kind of thing. How would you say families can support that emotional move?
I mean, we're not equipped to, we're not like other countries where family move in when they need more help. Both kids and husbands and wives are working and all of that, and I think what gets lost is that they don't become daughters and sons anymore. They've become social workers and case managers for their parents, and time is precious. And so by making a move like that, it's things off of the kids' plate, it's things off the parents' plate, and you can spend more quality time together, reminiscing, going out to a ball game, doing things, as opposed to, did you get mom's prescription picked up? All right, we've got that doctor's appointment, I'm gonna come by and pick you, and that's all the time that you have is just talking about those things, and you haven't talked about the Cubs or, whatever that is. That's what we want, right? And that's part of that. They don't even realize that that's all their world has been for X amount of time, is running around and caring, and that's all the interaction that you have.
Yeah.
That's exactly where my
Yeah.
husband is right now with his father-in-law. He's the caretaker. He's like, I feel like I'm living two lives. He goes, I do everything, all the doctor's appointments, all the groceries, all the this, all the finances for my dad, and then I got all our stuff to do. And he goes, I feel like I'm living two lives. And my father-in-law just said a couple of weeks ago, he's like, to my husband, he's like, we don't really have any time to do anything fun anymore. It's like, yeah, it's because we're doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So it is emotional, and it's tough.
I was gonna say that, they should be here, because they're clueless. I've got two daughters, they have no idea.
Yeah.
What we're facing, all of us are facing. And the other thing is, it would make it easier if they were here, they could hear it from you rather than hearing it from me, because I don't remember it, most of what you say, and they don't believe me anyway when I tell them. I've got no, respect in my own time, so,
Yeah.
but you do, your authorities, they should be here, or the reluctant spouse should be here, because she's gonna have to remember, you're gonna have to remember what this is about and tell her, and she don't wanna hear it anyway, but if she was here, you drag her in here, she can hear it from you.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, they're in for a big job, and they don't know it, and they should hear it from you.
And I really appreciate you, you mentioning that, and it's comments like that we've heard this year that make us want to find ways to get to those, we call it the sandwich generation. We need to find another, probably a way, but it's those that have kids at home still, and they're taking care of their families, but we do, that's probably who we should be talking to, and we are going to be looking for those opportunities in 2026, churches, senior living communities that have maybe a wait list, and we, just ways of talking to the kids, so.
And in hours that they're available,
Right.
because they're full working right now,
Yeah.
so morning seminars probably are complicated for them, but we heard that these are, I wanted to know all of these things ahead of when I took care of my mother-in-law, and I know how important it is for other friends of mine, my age, with their parents, that they should know all of these things, so, yeah, it's.
I was just gonna say, like, Jonna just admitted her father-in-law can't get him to move. My mother-in-law broke her hip, she's going to rehab today, and she's got a 2-story house in Carmel that I explained to my daughters-in-law, yeah, after rehab, what are we gonna do? And it was like deer in the headlights, and so we're not here to talk anybody into doing anything. We can't even talk our own family members into being proactive, but that's the reality of like trying to have these conversations sooner than later. I'm like, the 2 flights of stairs, mom's probably not gonna navigate those, so what are we gonna do? And everybody's like, oh, fix it, Dave.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's why we have you, Dave.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So,
That's why we all have Dave.
yeah, that's right.
We do, we have the Dave, we have Leanne, we have Lana and all of our friends
Yeah.
here that now at least we have a phone number. Please make sure you have their phone numbers in your phone to just pick up and call when sometimes it needs a fall
Yeah.
or a crisis that we try to avoid that with this education, that you have to make decisions in crisis, but if that's what it has to happen, you know who you need to call. So logistics are very important, you know, planning ahead, and talking about logistics. What kind of logistics go into the real estate side of, is there a better time to sell a home? Is there a best time, season? What kind of logistics do you, as an agent, prepare your families when they downsize?
Well, there's a seasonality to real estate, although I would say since prior to COVID, it's been abnormal, so I don't know if it's even, if there's still a seasonality to it, but let's just say that spring is always a great time to sell a house. But it still, it depends on the condition of the home, it depends on what that home is competing against. So there's just a lot of market questions to be answered at the time. So to your point, is there a best time? A best time is when you need to make a move,
Yes.
and how to plan it in the least stressful way possible.
And in a way that you, as a downsizing expert, what things do you take in consideration when you move a transition, when you kind of advise on a transition of selling and then getting to the next place?
I mean, I spend most of my time with my client just laying out a plan that works for them and their family. I try to get the family involved because I know if I don't in the beginning, it could flare up at the end, and they don't feel like they've been a part of it. They may not feel like, that they just haven't been honored in that process. So having a plan, laying it out, here are our experts that we can bring in. I'm here the whole time, but there are definitely experts that do a great job. I'm not gonna fix the walls or the floor, and I'm probably not the caregiver they're looking for, but it's just laying out a plan and helping them feel confident and everybody knowing what's happening. Did that answer your question?
Yes, and kind of like emphasizing a little bit more into the house per se, to prepare the house. If they're gonna sell the house, do they have to sell it right away? Is there different options that you bring in for them?
Yep, I'm gonna ask them all those kind of questions. They're financial advisors. I'm gonna ask what kind of, where they're, all the documents that are in place, who's the power of attorney. There are all kinds of options. There are reverse mortgage options. If they just even wanted to just walk away, I mean, there are experts that will help them with that. So it's just really just figuring out what the client wants, giving them their choices, and then letting them make the plan.
So it's not that they have to worry about, I have to make my decision in this season because this is going to happen and maybe the market is gonna change and all that. You just, whatever they are in their journey of moving, you always have different options for them at the moment that they're ready to move.
There are ways to maximize the equity if that's what they're looking for. There's a way of making things simple if that's what they're looking for. There's support if that's what they're looking for. It depends.
Yeah. So we don't have to be afraid. Am I in the right time? If I need to sell my house, am I in the right time right now?
Yeah.
You're in the right time to start asking questions and having the people coming in and evaluate and see what are that plan and the options that you have for your thing. So I always wonder, what are the comments that you, Lana, have with people that use your service? what are the comments that they would say is the most surprising benefit or the most unexpected aha moment just by using a service like yours?
I think probably, what we do, just to set the stage, is we have women on our team that will do the packing and do the unpacking, for individuals that are moving into either a smaller home or a retirement community. On unpack day, our goal is to have the apartment completely set up. So there's sheets on the bed, we've hung their artwork back up, we've taken a lot of pictures so that we can get a ladies' curio cabinet put back together. But the most unexpected surprise, people will walk in and say, well, this looks just like my home. I had one lady ask me, is this my furniture? It looks so good. I had another lady say, this is what I always wanted my house to look like, but I could never get it to look quite like this. Because we do have a good eye for hanging artwork, and it is kind of just kind of like showroom ready when they come in. So I think that's the surprise, because when we all moved in the past, I mean, it's a chaotic nightmare for 3 or 4 weeks after you move. So to be able to walk in the front door and it's like, ta-da, is a real surprise for people. And for their daughters, as well. We know we've been successful if somebody cries, and we get a lot of hugs in our business, so I think that's the surprise is, it'll be a lot of hard work downsizing up before that, but to be able to walk in and go,
And
that's
have
the
you
surprise.
find that because you're the expert, family drama kind of comes down? Because when you're the expert and you're guiding them and saying, well, you should do this with that, you should do this with this, I recommend this.
I think it helps just to your point, it just kind of helps to have an objective third party, just offer ideas and suggestions. And I think it does make it a little easier for everybody. Sometimes I've had, sometimes a tendency when, as a daughter-in-law myself or a daughter, it's easy to go in, it's like, just get rid of all this stuff. Like, you don't need all that stuff in the kitchen. You don't need all that stuff. Cause it's not my stuff. So it's easy for me to be insensitive to that. But, or any kind of kid to be insensitive to that. So it helps, I think, a lot because the women on our team are sensitive to it. We've seen everybody go through the emotional stress, and we do hear the stories of why things are important, but we have, we've just got a great group of women to, it's not that the daughters-in-laws and sons aren't patient and sensitive, I don't mean to do it like that, but they're in there to get it done. Like, let's get it done, mom and dad, and we can kind of add a level of compassion that sometimes is needed.
It's my favorite thing to see the stress level go down in the families. It's just like somebody's gonna support all of us through that, because families are challenging. We all have challenging families.
And sometimes we have, I don't know if it happens to you, but when we were making decisions for my mother-in-law, there's always the doubt, because I'm not an expert, because I really don't know a lot of this. Am I taking the right decision? And sometimes delaying that decision because we're afraid that maybe it might be wrong what we think it is, the right or the wrong, or maybe with, many times in the transition of my mother-in-law, decisions were made because we thought, oh, well, it'll be easier for her, and then we made a decision of taking her to a therapy facility because they said if she stayed in the hospital, she needs to have like 4 hours a day of therapy. And we're like, oh, that was gonna be too much. But if she goes to this facility, she was gonna have more time and not so hard. And when we moved her, it was totally not what she was wanting to be, and it was so much harder on us that it weighed on us so much we made the wrong decision and then we have to fix it and bring her back and all of those things when, and like you're right, we are emotional, we see, and on top of that, we have the history of relationship between us, and especially mothers and daughters, or sons and fathers, that you have a history that your patient is probably like this short, not because you're a bad son or daughter, it's just because there's a lot of history back in there. But somebody who comes in with a perspective of, it's okay, I've seen it, this happened, I understand why they're saying this, I understand why they're reluctant to make this decision, it just makes it so much better than for us.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the advantages of having a person in your phone to call, that you don't have to take it on yourself to give the options, to make the decisions, just like they give us a plan, they give us the option, now it's easier to decide, you know, what we think is best for us. So, Dave, when someone is moving into a senior living, what should they clarify upfront regarding the care levels, the financial obligation, the requirements, moving requirements, that maybe we don't know, we have to clarify?
Yeah, so I think that's my job, I go on the tours with the family, so I'll be there to ask those questions and do that, but that's part of what I'm there to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really understanding when a community, how they come up with those care levels, when those care levels change, who makes that decision, you know, when can they expect that, can the bill change month to month? Those are the things that we're gonna talk about on those tours. How long the lease, is it a year-long lease or is it a month-to-month lease? Well, if it's a year-long lease, that's tough to say. 6 months in and mom or dad doesn't like it, what happens, right? What, can they break that lease? What is that? Those are things that we're gonna talk about, understanding the financial piece, but really, this whole thing starts as a real estate transaction when you're moving, but it's really understanding the care, right? Especially if you're going into assisted living, how that works, what the communities can and can't do, why this one is different than that one that we toured the week before, because they all have different levels that they can and can't do, when the bill will change, what the annual increases are gonna look like. Those are the things that you really have to understand, because that walk-in closet might be the deal breaker now, but a year from now, when mom's needing a little bit more care and you don't understand how the care works, that's where the stress is gonna come back and get you. So really taking the time to understand that. So I will push that on the tours, to like, does that make sense? Do we need to go into that anymore? What if mom needs this much, or what if dad wanders off the community, what's gonna happen, you know, talking about that while we're on the tour, so my clients understand that.
Because you know the insides of all of these communities and you have experience, you know, what happens with this client when this happened, this community handled it this way, other communities handled it all the way.
Yeah, so having that downtime, you know, and people will say like, oh my God, I'm so glad you were on the tour. I didn't think to ask that, or how you connected that to that. I didn't, oh, now I get it, you know, like, oh, so maybe we do need to look at assisted living. I didn't think about independent being, okay, all right, I hear you now. You know, it's like helping them understand that.
It's a process.
It is a process.
Yeah.
But if you're doing that quickly because mom's getting out of rehab tomorrow and you don't know where to go, it's really difficult to absorb all of that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just go to, can she be here?
Yeah.
Like next week?
Got a room available? Okay.
Is
yeah.
there a room available? And maybe I need to take 3-4 more steps when I could have saved just one move for her instead of 3-4, because we just took whatever it was available at that point. Yeah. So
Good time.
start the conversations in time, start the touring in time, planning ahead, the little steps, you know, paperwork stuff, moving along with what I'm gonna do with my house. Is my house needed to be supporting all of those things? All of this, you know, if we have to make all of these decisions in a week or in a month, or it's gonna be so overwhelming that if we can just start little by little making all of these conversations, just have a plan written and plan A, plan B, and then a fall happens and maybe we need to speed it up or something like that, but at least we already know, what we didn't know without asking all of these questions.
And my aunt is in a community now in, Danville, and, it was a crisis situation, and my cousin selected the community that she's in now, and my aunt really doesn't recall what led, the situation that led to her having to go to a community. That's all kind of a fog, but she feels like someone put her there. She has that impression that someone put her there, and that just made an impression on me. That's what I would just like want people to have choices. Like, here's the 3, here's one that had the availability, because I just would like to prevent that from happening to anybody else.
And this is probably something you need to talk to your, loved one and saying, do you want the choices to be made by you? Or for you? Do you wanna get into the, a crisis where you have no choices but to follow what they decide? Or do you want to have some control and some say of what's gonna happen if? If you don't face it right now, it's gonna happen to you.
Yeah.
But if we face it now, you're gonna decide what you wanna do in the future. So, in a real estate side, then Leanne, what's one myth about selling a long time home, like the home that you've been in for years, that you wish every older adult understood before they start the process? Talking about, sometimes they said, I can just sell it as it is. It's good for me and it should be good for anybody else, kind of thing. Or,
Yeah. We're gonna I think we have an upcoming seminar where we talk about as is and what that really means. I guess the myth sometimes is, I mean, look at Zillow, and my house is worth what Zillow says.
Yeah.
That's really the biggest myth that we face.
Yeah.
So then we try to show them what the market looks like, what's been happening, sort of interpret that data, and the difference between a national AI number versus what's happening in the local market and what are we competing with. So I guess that's the biggest myth.
And the myth that they have to worry about the season, or if I sell now, or if I sell in the future, I have to be watching interest rates or not interest rates. There's a lot of talking around.
There's a lot of bullet points,
Yes.
a lot of headlines out there, yeah.
That they wanna make like, everything is crumbling down, so do I sell right now before everything crumbles down in the market?
Well, it occurs to me that, there's a journey to life, and you may not be able to control the market, but what you can control is the conversation, the support, the equipping yourself so that you're making the best decision for you, regardless of the season or what's happening out there in the market.
And to all of you, what do you think is one action item in your expertise side that is doable, that is realistic, let's say for all of us who are here in the next 7 days, let's say, or within the month? For you, Dave.
Yeah, I think if you're entertaining this, just reach out to me, or like I said, anybody that does that. I think to your point about like the Zillow and stuff like that, stay off of Nextdoor and all of that stuff.
One place for moms.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think that like your situation is going to be uniquely tailored for you. Like I've had people come to me and say like, I wouldn't put a prisoner in that community, and I'd be like, I have 4 families there that are extremely happy about that. Like, what has been your situation? So like, just be proactive. If you're not wasting any of our time, just make that call, have that conversation, and you'll be surprised how better you will feel by getting the knowledge about what those options are, even if you don't do anything for a year or 2.
Yeah.
So in the next 7 days, couple of things. We've just come out of summer and fall. So just go through your shoes from the summer. Any shoes that you didn't wear this summer, just get rid of them. It's fresh on your mind what you wore, what you didn't wear.
Mhm.
So just go through those summer clothes and shoes.
Good tip.
Yeah,
Good, yeah.
yeah,
Smart.
yes.
Now I'm going through ornaments right now. What ornaments am I gonna put on that tree? Cause we've been having these conversations for months, about what, you know, how to be prepared and what's the first step to be prepared. And I thought, well, I might as well not repack the ornaments that I'm not gonna put on the tree.
Yeah, get rid. Yeah, if the Christmas decorations, if some of them don't go up, just go ahead and donate them now.
Yeah.
I have like half of the ornaments that I didn't put up this time. In the real estate downsizing.
Yeah, I would just say, again, back to that conversation, just having a conversation. It doesn't have to mean that you're doing something now, but just what should you fix and not fix on the house?
I've noticed that when we go into consultation of listing homes, until we walked in and start pointing out things, people don't really notice what's going on in their home. And because you see it and you saw it deteriorate so slowly that it doesn't register, like, oh, it's not looking that, pristine anymore. But when we walk in and start pointing out things, they're like, oh, that's right, I didn't notice that this was not supposed to be like this. That door has been wonky for, the last 30 years of my life, and I manage around it all the time, kind of thing. And even just a consultation to see, how does my house look now? And somebody new to come in and have a point of view saying, you're in really good shape, or you really need to start having a plan to, get those doors unwanted.
Unwanted, yeah.
Any more questions from
I
you?
have a
Yeah.
quick question. So, Dave, what you do is in the independent living and assisted living space.
Yep.
Let's say that you're the kind of person, kind of like me, who wants to stay at home just till the very last second, and then it's probably gonna be truly a full nursing home. When, now, I'm making this up, but yeah, that could happen. So where do you go for that kind of pre-planning, when you're talking full nursing?
Yeah, so
Are
there, I
there
don't,
services that do that?
I would reach out to probably the geriatric care manager. So I think we all know some people that do that. They're gonna be in and out of those skilled nursing facilities more regularly, and they can give you more guidance. I can kind of tell you what to look for, but I'm not in those communities like that, and it's a very rapid fire. It changes on a daily, hourly basis as
Yeah.
far as availability and things like that. And financially, if that's the plan, make sure you understand that part of it too, because I'd say an average cost right now is probably $375 to $420 a day or something like that. And where do you want to go? Do you want a private room? Are you okay with a shared room? And I can help you like with the lay of the land of what's out there and what's available. But I would reach out to a geriatric care manager that's got their
And where do
pulse
you
on that a
find
little bit more.
Geriatric care manager?
What's that?
Where do you find one of those people?
Oh, I know a few.
We can
I'd be
go
happy to
to-
tell you. Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you, yeah, I know when we were looking for my mother, it was kind of an emergency, she was being released from the hospital, couldn't go home. She needed a nursing home, well, fortunately, there were only 4 nursing homes in that whole town, so it was easy for us girls to go around and interview all of them and then make that choice, but around here, it's quite a
It's
difference.
overwhelming, yeah, for
Yes.
sure,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Can you imagine making that decision in a
Here?
city like this
No.
within hours? Yeah.
Not at all, and especially if it's not me, but one of my kids.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Because usually we're sitting like deers in headlights in a hospital room
Yeah.
when the doctor says she cannot go back home. And this is the situation, and then they might have in the hospital a social worker that will give you some, pamphlets or things that you should call this, you should call that, but when you have to make that decision, you're just sitting in there, you don't even have time to process saying, okay, so now what we're gonna do with mom's home and are we gonna be able to afford it? Can she afford it by herself? Do we need to pitch, into this kind of thing? Usually is in those rooms when the doctor just came by and say, this is the reality right now, and then you just hit by it. So you better make your own decisions for if that situation comes in. It's like, well, mom already talked about this, and there is a folder, we talked about the binder, there was a funny name about a binder that we heard in our conference.
Yeah.
I think when it happens, and this is the binder that you're gonna, yes, and, you already made a decision, and you already made that investigation and said, this is who I want you to call, and this is the person that is gonna be contacted, this is the places that I know that I wanna be in. More questions? Comments?
Last month, Alex mentioned a book called Being Mortal, and he mentioned it, and so I went home and realized that I had the book from a mentor that had recommended it to me. I was driving to Bristol to have Thanksgiving with a daughter, so I put it on Audible and listened to it on the way down. I highly would recommend it because it talks about, regardless of what we want to do, there's a journey, there's a process to life, and there is the ability to let our families know and to have those conversations every step of the way. And if our families know what we want, and when we're being released, when God forbid something happens, we're in an accident and those life or death situations are happening, how Kayla and Jenny talk, legally, how far do we want medicine to intervene? If we could just have those conversations, think those through, put them in the binder.
Yeah.
Can't remember. I met a lady, Alex, I went on a listing appointment, and I told the lady that I was leaving her house to drive down to Bristol, and she's like, oh, that's not such a long drive, and I said, well, I'm getting ready to listen to Being Mortal, and she said, I read that book a couple of years ago, and then she's 92. She said, I read that book a couple of years ago, and I gave every child in my family, every adult. And one of her sons is a doctor and said that he had already had the book, he had read it in medical school. It was one of his assignments. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I read that book myself, and what I liked about it was that it kind of flips the questions. It turns the questions from what does this facility offer to what do I want? What do I want my life situation to be?
Yes.
And what is it, it makes you think about what quality of life issues are important to you.
Yes.
And then you can hopefully be able to match what's important to the facilities that may offer most of that is important to you. And it really flipped it upside down, I thought.
Well said,
Which was
Ann.
wonderful.
Yes, well said. It helps you think through those.
It helps you think about, okay, well, and because what the other thing I noticed from is facilities will tend to focus on safety, the things that they're measured on. That from my experience with my mother, safety's important, but safety wasn't everything.
No.
And especially as she got closer to the end of life, well, one example was they had taken her on a no-salt diet. She had no reason to be on a no-salt diet. She didn't like the food because it tasted bad, so she wasn't eating. Or they thought she had a risk of choking. And finally, after her not eating for, 6 months, I said, look, is there a paper I can sign that says we accept that risk and you don't? And there was, and I did, and she got happier and started eating it.
Yeah, because salt usually those preventions they're taken into consideration. Low salt for 10 years will prolong, but
at the end of life, who wants another 10 years?
Have a little salt, have a little ice cream, absolutely, yes.
Salt on your ice cream.
Chicken broth. Yes.
Salt on your ice cream.
Well, I want to thank my panelists. If you don't don't have any more questions, I think what we can come out of this is having a conversation. It doesn't take any time for any of them, because they're here. Each one of them have very active businesses, and they choose to be here every single month, investing their time because they know education and conversations are important. So if you give them a call, if you contact them, it's not going to be a waste of their time, and it's going to help you decide what life needs to be for you instead of life happening to you. Take back, like the book says, flip the question and said, take back how you want to be at the end, your last years, and how do you want those things to happen instead of just waiting for it to happen to you.
I wanted to ask Dave, I have two questions, one for the audience, one for our guests, and then one for Dave. Dave, can I put a deposit down on my favorite place?
Sure. Yeah, in most places, that's a great question. You can put a deposit down and it'll hold your place. So if you're like, I want a 1-bedroom or I want one with a west facing window, they'll just call you every time.
What if I don't know, what if I'm not ready yet?
It's fine, you can just stay there. In most instances, it's fully refundable. So they'll just call you, hey, we've got a 1-bedroom coming. No, I'm not ready to move yet. All right, you just stay there on the list and they'll just come back around when the next one's up. So and then if you're like, never mind, I'm moving to Florida, they'll reimburse you
Okay.
for that. Yeah.
Well, that's nice, because soon we're gonna face a huge, everybody will be full.
Yeah, I mean, and you do have wait lists. I mean, they are out there in most instances. Like, for example, earlier this last week, I was gonna tour this Sunday and they said we have a wait list for our 1-bedroom. We have one coming available, but we've got internal people that wanna move and external. So I told the family, I don't think the 1-bedroom is gonna be an option. By the time we got there yesterday, they said, yeah, we went through the wait list, nobody's ready to move. So as soon as this apartment's available, if you guys want it, you can have it. So those are things that we'll talk about. So don't always be intimidated by wait lists, but kind of understanding, is that an external wait list or is it an internal? How serious are they? It doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be 6 months or a year for that.
And I've heard, even Hoosier Village, that, people talk about what a wait list there are, and there is a huge wait
Yeah.
list, but the more flexible you can be, the more likely you are to get in sooner rather than
Sure,
the extended
as I
wait list.
understand.
But so I could go tour and put a deposit down, knowing that if something, happens, or if I need more care, I grow into that, needing more care, that's where I can go, when there's availability.
Yep.
Alright, that's a good planning
But make sure that
question.
you've packed all your stuff.
Yeah.
Make sure that you've packed all your stuff.
Yes.
The packed all your
Yeah,
stuff,
packed,
yeah.
okay.
Then you already pruned all
Yeah,
of your
you already
stuff.
pruned
Yeah,
all your
yeah,
stuff.
I've got, yes. And then I